friend of mine recently made a comment that overall violent crime is up in the United States, and I thought I'd take a look at that and do a little research and find some data on that. So I've come to the FBI's website and I've gone to their Crime Data Explorer, where they collect and aggregate and report crime statistics, and it brings me to a page um, where it shows total violent crime, and it automatically comes up with 2012 to 2022. And it brings you a little line chart here that shows rates of violent crime per 100,000 people. So if you have a city of 100,000 people on average throughout the United States, in 2012, about 388 of them experienced a violent crime. Then dropped down into about 360 in 14, up to about 398 in 16, dropped back down in 2019, came up a bit in 2020, and in 2022, where we have the last data reporting here or aggregated, it's about 381 people per 100,000 people experienced a violent crime. So that's come down, if you just look at those two numbers from 2012 to 2022, from 388 to 381, with some fluctuation in there. But if you put a little regression line through, a linear regression line through, show the slope is slightly going up just a little bit between these data points. But my overall general comment is I don't think this is the right way to look at this. I think the right way to look at this is to look at all of the data the FBI collects or is presenting back to 1985. And when you do that, it shows here's the time period we were just looking at, 2012 to 2022. But when you look at all of the data, it shows crime has come down from the early 90s, where it was 758 per 100,000 people were experiencing a violent crime in a given year on average, dropping down to 388, so roughly half by 2011, and then it's remained relatively flat over time. So my overall conclusion here is that rates of violent crime have come down substantially over the last 30 years and remain relatively flat over the last 10 years. Now, that doesn't mean in one neighborhood like Oakland, crime has gone up, or in another neighborhood, maybe like Dallas, where it's come down. But on average, throughout the United States, rates of violent crime are substantially lower. And you can go through and individually look at some of these other types of crime that are part of all violent crime, like homicide. That's come up a bit, but you got to look at the relative number here. In 2014, it was about 4.5 people per 100,000 were murdered essentially, and that had come up from 4.4 to 6.2 or something like that. It's a couple of people, but overall since the 1990s has come down. But when you go and look at all property crimes, for example, that's come down substantially from the early 90s, slightly up in the last year, but overall it's crime is down. One other comment I received was that, well, this data is not reliable because not all agencies are reporting. But I mean, if you go back to your statistics class, we don't need all agencies to report. We just need a good representative sample. And this is showing that in 2022, I'm sure we could go back and find the data for all the other years, but 16,000 out of about 19,000 law enforcement agencies are reporting. That's about 85% reporting rate. So you get 16,000 law enforcement agencies reporting crime statistics throughout the United States. And so for, if you're looking at, trends over time, that's an 85% coverage ratio, or 16,000 agencies is going to give you a good representative example of what's happening over time. And over time, it's basically showing you that crime rates are, roughly in half over time since over the last 30 years or in my adult lifetime. So my conclusion is crime rates have come down substantially in the last 30 years and have remained relatively flat over the approximately last 10 years. Thank you.